This forgotten sleep habit is rewriting everything we know. Before we begin, I'm curious, what time is it where you're watching this? Are you tuning in during your lunch break? Or maybe you're like me, researching sleep solutions at 2 a.m. when you should be sleeping. Let me know in the comments below. In the quiet hours after sunset, when frost clung to the eaves of longhouses and the only sound was the slow crackling of the hearth fire, the Vikings slept. Not with pills, not with sleep masks, but in complete natural darkness. And they woke, rested. Today we battle sleep. We fight to fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up not feeling like we've been in a war. But the truth is, sleep wasn't always this broken. 1,000 years ago, in the unforgiving cold of the north, the Viking people built a lifestyle in sync with the earth's rhythms. They didn't just survive brutal winters and endless summers. They slept through them. Like pros. And maybe, just maybe, we're the ones who forgot how. But what if I told you that forgetting wasn't an accident? What if someone wanted us to forget? The Vikings didn't sleep like us. They didn't chase 8 uninterrupted hours and feel guilty when they failed. Instead, they slept in 2 parts. 4 hours, a pause, then another 4. Between those sleeps, a secret world came alive. Couples whispered under furs, children listened to stories, fires were stoked, rituals were held. They called it Första Sveffen, the first sleep. Then, Annarsveffen, the second. They weren't broken sleepers, they were biologically in sync. Today, scientists are rediscovering this. Our bodies naturally surge with prolactin during midnight wakefulness. We're calm, introspective, open to reflection. The Vikings didn't pathologize this pause, they embraced it. But here's what the sleep industry doesn't want you to know. If you're finding this valuable so far, hit that like button. It helps more people discover these ancient sleep secrets. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more deep dives into forgotten wisdom. Imagine sleeping in a room so dark you can't see your hand. No headlights, no phones, no blinking routers, just firelight, fading into coals. Viking homes had no windows, and if they did, they were covered with animal hides or blocked by thick shutters. The central hearth was the only light source, and at night it was banked low. This darkness wasn't accidental. It was healing. Today, our screens blast blue light into our eyes. That blue spectrum delays melatonin, the hormone that makes us sleepy, by hours. But in Viking homes, light was red and dim. It aligned with the natural rhythms of the sun, and their melatonin surged. They weren't just getting sleep. They were getting deep sleep. Yet something changed in the 1880s that would destroy this forever. The modern world values privacy, but the Viking world valued presence. They slept together, literally. Families curled up on raised platforms lining the longhouse walls. Children, elders, even workers, one sleeping body beside another. It wasn't chaos, it was comfort. The heat of bodies insulated them. The presence of others made them feel safe. And that safety? It lowered stress, reduced nighttime alertness, and deepened sleep. Today, studies confirm this. People who sleep next to someone they trust sleep better. Vikings knew it by instinct. They even arranged beds by status, heads of households near the fire, servants closer to the cold. But all together, always together. This wasn't just tradition, it was survival strategy. Because in the Viking world, the night held dangers we've forgotten. No memory foam, no adjustable base, no cooling gel, just straw, wool, and fur. Yet it worked, maybe better than your mattress. A Viking bed began with a raised wooden frame, not to be fancy, to stay dry. On top, fresh straw, changed seasonally to reduce mites and moisture. Then wool, then furs. The result? Firm support, breathable insulation, and natural temperature regulation. Their headrests were leather-wrapped wool or moss, firm, supportive, aligned with the spine. Today's sleep science says this is ideal, and modern mattress companies are trying to recreate what Vikings already knew. Sometimes, progress is forgetting and relearning. But why did we forget something so fundamental? The answer lies in a single man's obsession with control. They didn't have Ambien. They had Astrid. Astrid the healer, who harvested valerian root before the frost claimed its potency. Who brewed tea from chamomile flowers gathered at dawn when their oils ran strongest. Who whispered ancient incantations over tinctures that would make grown warriors sleep like babes. But what she whispered, that was knowledge worth killing for. The Viking world used herbs not just for symptoms, but to support the deeper rhythms of life itself. They understood something we've forgotten. Sleep isn't just rest. It's repair. It's rebirth. It's the daily resurrection that keeps us human. And the plants knew this secret long before we did. But first, they had to survive the harvest. Astrid moved through the moonlit meadows like a ghost, her weathered hands knowing exactly which plants to pluck. Valerian root came first, always before the killing frost, when the earth's energy was pulling downward into the roots. One mistake in timing, and the medicine became mere mulch. She wasn't alone in these midnight harvests. Other healers moved through the darkness, their knowledge passed down through whispered teachings from grandmother to granddaughter. But they weren't just gathering plants, they were gathering power. And in the morning, men would come asking questions about that power. The science we know today would have astounded them and vindicated them completely. Valerian root contains valerianic acid, which increases GABA activity in the brain. GABA is nature's brake pedal for an overactive mind. Modern studies show valerian reduces sleep latency by an average of 15 to 20 minutes. But the Vikings didn't need studies. They had centuries of sleeping warriors as proof. Yet something darker lurked behind these healing traditions. By dawn, Astrid's basket overflowed with chamomile flowers, those deceptively innocent daisy-like blooms that held the power to calm the most tormented minds. She knew what we've only recently discovered. Chamomile contains epigenonin, a compound that binds to benzodiazepine receptors in the brain. Think about that. A simple flower, creating the same neurochemical pathway as modern anti-anxiety medications. The Vikings brewed it strong, drank it hot, and felt their nervous systems downshift from battle-ready to bed-ready. But they did something else too, something that made the medicine even more powerful. They made it sacred. Every cup of chamomile tea was a ritual. Every sip was intention. Every brewing was ceremony. The placebo effect didn't diminish the real effect, it amplified it. Modern research confirms this. Ritual and belief can increase a substance's effectiveness by up to 40%. But certain people didn't want the common folk to have access to this kind of power. While Astrid brewed chamomile, her apprentice Ingrid worked with hops, those cone-shaped flowers that would later make beer legendary. But before hops fermented warrior celebrations, they fermented warrior sleep. Hops contain methylbutanol, a sedative compound so effective that hop pickers often reported drowsiness just from handling the harvest. The Vikings didn't just brew hops into ales, they stuffed them into pillows, creating the world's first aromatherapy sleep aids. The effect was immediate and undeniable. Restless sleepers became sound sleepers. Anxious minds became quiet minds. Warriors who once lay awake replaying battles now drifted off peacefully, their dreams filled with tomorrow's victories instead of yesterday's wounds. But this knowledge came with a price that few were willing to pay. In the corner of Astrid's garden grew lavender, purple spikes of concentrated calm that held secrets. The modern world is only beginning to understand. When Vikings crushed lavender between their fingers, they released linalool and linaloyl acetate, compounds that cross the blood-brain barrier and directly influence neurotransmitter activity. Just the scent could drop blood pressure by 10 to 15 points. Just the presence could shift brainwaves from agitated beta to peaceful alpha. Modern aromatherapy research validates what the Vikings knew intuitively. Lavender doesn't just smell good. It changes your brain chemistry. They burned it in their longhouses. They sewed it into their bedding. They rubbed it on their temples before sleep. The entire environment became a delivery system for natural sedation. But someone was watching these practices with growing alarm. What made Viking herbal medicine so effective wasn't just the plants, it was the psychology wrapped around them. Every herb was harvested with purpose. Every preparation was performed with mindfulness. Every dose was taken with belief. Modern neuroscience calls this the ritual effect, the way ceremonial consumption can enhance a substance's impact through focused attention and positive expectation. The Vikings didn't have fMRI machines, but they understood that the mind's preparation could amplify the body's response. When Astrid prepared her sleep tinctures, she didn't just mix ingredients. She created an experience. The grinding of herbs, the steeping in moonlight, the chanted blessings over each batch. Every element reinforced the mind's readiness to receive healing. This wasn't superstition. This was sophisticated psychology wrapped in practical wisdom. But this wisdom posed a threat to those who preferred a population that stayed awake worrying. The true genius of Viking herbal sleep medicine wasn't in any single plant. It was in the combinations. Astrid knew that valerian and chamomile together created effects neither could achieve alone. That hops and lavender formed partnerships that multiplied their individual potentials. Modern pharmacology calls this synergy, the way multiple compounds can work together to create effects greater than the sum of their parts. The Vikings called it wisdom. They didn't just throw herbs together randomly. They understood energetics, which plants cooled overheated minds, which ones grounded scattered thoughts, which ones invited the deep surrender that true rest requires. Each person received a unique blend, crafted for their specific constitution and current challenges. Personalized medicine, 1,000 years before we gave it a name. But this personalized approach meant healers like Astrid knew things about people that made certain authorities very nervous. While teas provided gentle effects, tinctures delivered concentrated medicine. Astrid soaked her carefully selected herbs in fermented honey wine for lunar months, creating potent extractions that could calm the most agitated minds within minutes. These weren't the crude preparations we might imagine. Viking healers understood extraction ratios, timing, and potency in ways that rival modern herbalism. They knew that alcohol pulled different compounds than water. That time transformed raw materials into refined medicines. That patience created potency. A few drops of Astrid's valerian tincture could accomplish what handfuls of raw root could not. Her chamomile concentrate worked faster than any tea. Her multi-herb sleep formulas became legendary throughout the region. People traveled for days to obtain these preparations. They paid in silver, in favors, in loyalty. The little glass vials Astrid produced were worth their weight in gold. But gold attracted attention from those who preferred to control all forms of power. The Vikings revolutionized sleep through their environment, not just their consumption. They stuffed pillows and mattresses with sleep-inducing herbs, creating passive delivery systems that worked all night long. Dried hops provided the foundation, their sedative compounds slowly releasing as body heat activated the plant materials. Lavender added its anxiety-reducing aromatics. Chamomile contributed its nervous system calming effects. Together, they transformed beds into healing chambers. This wasn't just clever, it was genius. Modern sleep research confirms that environmental factors can be as important as internal factors for sleep quality. Temperature, scent, comfort, and ambiance all influence our ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. The Vikings created optimized sleep environments using nothing but plants and intention. Every breath became medicine. Every hour of sleep became deeper healing. But someone was documenting these practices for reasons that had nothing to do with healing. Astrid wasn't working alone. Across the Viking territories, healers shared knowledge through a network that functioned like an ancient internet of botanical wisdom. New discoveries spread from village to village. Effective combinations were refined and improved. Failed experiments were documented and avoided. This collaborative approach accelerated their understanding of herbal sleep medicine exponentially. What might have taken one healer decades to discover, the network could validate and improve within seasons. They developed standardized preparations. They created quality controls. They established training protocols for apprentices. The Viking approach to herbal medicine was far more sophisticated than most people realize. But this network also made them visible to those who saw organized knowledge as organized threat. By the time Astrid reached her peak practice, Viking sleep medicine had evolved into something extraordinary. They could induce sleep without creating dependence. They could calm anxiety without dulling the mind. They could restore natural rhythms without disrupting daytime function. Their methods worked because they addressed root causes, not just symptoms. Poor sleep often stems from nervous system dysfunction, hormonal imbalances, or psychological distress. Modern sleep medications typically force unconsciousness without addressing these underlying issues. Viking herbal medicine supported the body's natural sleep mechanisms. It didn't override the nervous system, it harmonized it. It didn't create artificial states, it restored natural ones. The results spoke for themselves. Populations that slept deeply, dreamed vividly, and woke refreshed. Communities where insomnia was rare and sleep disorders were virtually unknown. But this success would soon attract the wrong kind of attention. The effectiveness of Viking herbal sleep medicine posed a problem for emerging power structures that preferred populations kept in states of chronic stress and sleeplessness. Tired people are easier to control. Anxious people are easier to manipulate. Well-rested, naturally calm populations are harder to dominate. As Christianity spread through Viking territories, it brought with it suspicion of plant medicine and indigenous healing practices. Healers like Astrid found themselves labeled as practitioners of pagan sorcery. Their botanical knowledge was reframed as dangerous witchcraft. The transition wasn't immediate, but it was systematic. Natural healing traditions were discouraged, then forbidden, then actively persecuted. The knowledge that had kept communities healthy for centuries was driven underground. Libraries of herbal wisdom were burned. Healers were exiled or worse. The collaborative networks that had accelerated botanical discoveries were shattered. What remained went into hiding, passed down in whispers and hidden in coded texts. As the suppression intensified, many of Astrid's most powerful formulas disappeared forever. Her legendary 7-herb sleep blend, the one that could calm even the most tormented minds, died with her apprentices. Her tincture extraction methods were lost when her workshop was destroyed. Modern researchers have attempted to reconstruct these formulas based on fragmentary historical records, but the precise combinations, ratios, and preparation methods remain mysteries. We know some of the plants they used, but not how they used them together. This represents one of the greatest losses in the history of natural medicine. Centuries of accumulated wisdom, tested through countless generations, vanished in mere decades of systematic suppression. The irony is profound. As we struggle with epidemic levels of sleep disorders and anxiety in the modern world, we've lost access to botanical traditions that successfully addressed these same issues for millennia. But some secrets survived in the most unexpected places. While the official suppression was devastating, it wasn't complete. Some healers went deep underground, continuing their practices in secret. They disguised their knowledge as folk remedies and old wives' tales. They coded their formulas in recipes and household traditions. Astrid's legacy survived through her great-granddaughter Sigrid, who memorized the most important preparations before fleeing to remote mountain valleys. There, isolated from the authorities, she continued the healing work in secret. These hidden practitioners developed elaborate systems to protect their knowledge. They used code words for dangerous herbs. They hid formulas in seemingly innocent songs and stories. They created networks of safe houses where the old medicine could be practiced away from prying eyes. For generations, this underground network preserved what the official world was trying to destroy. But the knowledge they protected would eventually surface in the most unexpected ways. Today, as pharmaceutical sleep aids create epidemics of dependence and side effects, researchers are rediscovering the wisdom of traditional herbal medicine. Clinical studies validate what Viking healers knew intuitively. Plant medicines can support natural sleep without the risks of synthetic drugs. Valerian, chamomile, hops, and lavender, the same herbs Astrid used over 1,000 years ago, are now the subjects of rigorous scientific investigation. The results consistently confirm their effectiveness for sleep disorders, anxiety, and nervous system support. Modern sleep centers are beginning to incorporate herbal protocols into their treatment approaches. Integrative physicians are prescribing plant medicines alongside conventional therapies. The circle is slowly closing between ancient wisdom and contemporary science. Yet we're still missing crucial pieces of the puzzle: the precise combinations, preparation methods, and ceremonial elements that made Viking herbal medicine so extraordinarily effective. But perhaps those secrets aren't as lost as we think. The real reason Viking herbal sleep medicine was suppressed wasn't because it didn't work. It was because it worked too well. A population that sleeps deeply, dreams clearly, and wakes refreshed is a population that thinks independently. They're harder to exhaust into compliance. They're more resistant to fear-based manipulation. Natural sleep medicine represents more than just better rest. It represents cognitive liberation. When people sleep well naturally, they don't need pharmaceutical interventions. When they manage anxiety with plants instead of pills, they maintain their autonomy. When they heal themselves with herbs instead of depending on medical systems, they retain their power. The suppression of herbal sleep medicine was never about safety or efficacy. It was about control. But knowledge this powerful has a way of resurfacing when humanity needs it most. Today, in an age of epidemic sleep disorders and pharmaceutical dependence, the time has come to reclaim the wisdom of healers like Astrid. Not through blind adherence to ancient practices, but through the integration of traditional knowledge with modern understanding. We have the scientific tools to validate herbal medicines. We have the communication networks to share knowledge globally. We have the research methodologies to refine and improve upon traditional formulas. What we need now is the courage to challenge systems that profit from our sleeplessness, our anxiety, our dependence on synthetic solutions to natural problems. The seeds of this revolution already exist in every chamomile flower, every valerian root, every sprig of lavender growing in gardens around the world. The question isn't whether these medicines work. Science has already answered that. The question is whether we have the wisdom to use them. And somewhere in the mists of time, Astrid is smiling, knowing that her secrets are finally ready to be revealed. Quick question for the community. Are you someone who eats late dinners and struggles with sleep? Or have you tried eating earlier? Drop your experience in the comments. I read every single one. Because what I'm about to reveal will change how you think about your last meal of the day forever. The Viking day began early, but it ended early too. Their last meal? Often before sunset. Sometimes as early as 4 p.m. by our modern clocks. And this wasn't just convenience. It was the foundation of the most sophisticated sleep optimization system the world had ever seen, disguised as simple survival. But first, let me tell you what happened when they broke this rule. It wasn't a health hack, it was survival. But survival that accidentally created the perfect conditions for restorative sleep. When archaeologists studied Viking settlement patterns, they discovered something remarkable. These communities organized their entire day around what we now call circadian optimization. No artificial lights meant cooking stopped with daylight, fires were banked, food preparation ceased, and the digestive system, that energy-hungry network of organs that can keep you awake for hours, finally got to rest. So did digestion. And so, they slept better than any civilization before or since. Modern chronobiology research confirms what the Vikings discovered by necessity. Eating within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime can delay sleep onset by up to 90 minutes and reduce deep sleep by 30%. Your body simply cannot perform the complex work of digestion while simultaneously initiating the delicate neurochemical cascade that creates restorative sleep. But there was something even more sinister about their timing that we're only beginning to understand. Today, we eat heavy dinners at 9 p.m. and wonder why we're restless at midnight. We blame stress, screens, or caffeine, never suspecting that our pasta marinara is sabotaging our sleep cycles 3 hours after we consumed it. Here's what's happening in your body during those late-night meals. Your core temperature rises to support digestion, exactly when it should be dropping to signal sleep readiness. Your insulin spikes to manage blood sugar, triggering a cascade of alertness hormones. Your gut microbiome shifts into high-activity mode, sending wake-up signals to your brain through the vagus nerve. The Vikings avoided this metabolic chaos entirely through their sunset eating schedule. By the time darkness fell, their digestive systems had completed the heavy lifting. Core temperatures could drop naturally. Insulin sensitivity could reset for the overnight fast. They ate in harmony with their biology, not in opposition to it. But the timing was only half the secret. The Viking diet also helped. Fish, full of omega-3s and vitamin D, that modern sleep research shows are critical for melatonin production and circadian rhythm regulation. Not just any fish, but the cold water varieties that concentrated the highest levels of DHA and EPA. The specific omega-3 fatty acids that cross the blood-brain barrier and directly influence sleep architecture. Salmon, Mackerel, herring, and cod formed the foundation of Viking nutrition, delivering therapeutic doses of sleep-supporting fats with every meal. Modern studies reveal that people with higher omega-3 levels fall asleep 37% faster and experience 58% less sleep fragmentation. The Vikings weren't measuring blood levels, but they were consuming 3 to 5 times more omega-3s than the average modern person. Their fish wasn't just food, it was medicine. And they consumed it daily, often twice daily, creating a steady state of sleep-optimized brain chemistry that we can barely achieve with supplements. But their preparation methods held secrets that most researchers have missed. Barley and oats, high in magnesium and complex carbs that provide sustained energy without blood sugar spikes, but also rich in prebiotics that fed beneficial gut bacteria responsible for producing sleep-supporting neurotransmitters. The Vikings didn't just cook their grains, they fermented them. Porridges and gruels were often left to naturally culture for days, creating probiotic-rich foods that modern science is only beginning to understand. These fermented grains provided sustained-release carbohydrates that help maintain stable blood sugar throughout the night. But here's the part that will blow your mind. Those beneficial bacteria weren't just improving digestion. They were manufacturing melatonin, GABA, and serotonin directly in Viking guts. Their intestinal microbiome was functioning as a 24/7 sleep medicine factory. Recent research shows that 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut, not the brain. The Vikings, through their fermentation practices, were optimizing their gut-brain axis for sleep without even knowing these concepts existed. Yet they were about to discover something even more powerful. Dairy, fermented into skyr, that thick, protein-rich cultured dairy product that boosted gut health and provided the amino acid precursors necessary for melatonin synthesis. But skyr wasn't just fermented milk, it was a biotechnology marvel that concentrated the sleep-supporting properties of dairy while eliminating the compounds that could disrupt rest. The fermentation process broke down lactose, which can cause digestive distress, concentrated protein, providing sustained amino acid release, and cultivated specific bacterial strains that produced sleep-enhancing metabolites. Modern analysis of traditional skyr reveals bacterial profiles that rival expensive probiotic supplements. Lactobacillus bulgaricus, Streptococcus thermophilus, and dozens of other beneficial organisms working in concert to optimize the gut environment for sleep. The Vikings consumed skyr daily, often as their final meal component, creating ideal conditions for overnight neurotransmitter production. They were essentially dosing themselves with personalized probiotics every single day. But the timing of when they ate this miracle food was crucial. They didn't just eat for energy. They unknowingly ate for sleep by consuming their largest, most complex meal at midday when digestive fire was strongest, then transitioning to lighter, easier-to-process foods as the day progressed. This wasn't arbitrary, it was instinctive optimization based on centuries of observation. They noticed that heavy evening meals led to restless nights. They observed that certain food combinations promoted better sleep than others. They discovered that timing mattered as much as content. Modern research on meal timing confirms the Viking approach. Our digestive enzymes peak at midday, our insulin sensitivity is highest in the afternoon, and our metabolism naturally slows as evening approaches. Fighting these rhythms with late, heavy meals creates metabolic chaos that can persist for hours after eating. The Vikings rode these natural waves instead of fighting them, creating effortless alignment between their eating patterns and their sleep cycles. But their most powerful discovery was yet to come. But their most powerful sleep weapon wasn't food at all. It was the sacred transition from eating to fasting that began each evening as the sun touched the horizon. This wasn't just practical necessity, it became a community ritual that marked the beginning of the sleep preparation period. Fires were banked, cooking vessels were cleaned and put away. The day's final nourishment was consumed in gratitude and mindfulness. The psychological impact was profound. Modern sleep hygiene research emphasizes the importance of wind-down routines that signal to the brain that sleep time is approaching. The Vikings created a natural transition that involved the entire community in preparing for rest. But they also understood something that we've forgotten. The fast between dinner and breakfast wasn't a deprivation. It was a gift to their metabolic and neurological systems. And the length of that fast held secrets that would reshape everything we know about sleep. By ending their eating before sunset and not breaking their fast until sunrise, Vikings naturally created 12 to 16-hour fasting windows that modern research shows are optimal for circadian rhythm regulation and metabolic health. During these overnight fasts, their bodies shifted into repair mode. Growth hormone production peaked. Cellular autophagy, the process of cleaning out damaged cellular components, accelerated. Blood sugar stabilized at optimal levels for deep sleep. But the metabolic benefits were just the beginning. Extended fasting periods also synchronized their circadian clocks, making it easier to fall asleep and wake up at consistent times. Their internal rhythms became as predictable as the sunrise. Modern time-restricted eating research validates what Vikings practiced intuitively. When you eat matters as much as what you eat for sleep quality. Their natural eating windows created hormonal conditions that promoted deep, restorative sleep every single night. Yet there was something even more remarkable about their fasting practices. Their morning meals were perfectly timed to break the fast, just as cortisol naturally peaked, providing energy when the body needed it most, while avoiding the blood sugar crashes that plague modern breakfast eaters. But it wasn't just timing, it was content. Viking breakfasts featured protein-rich foods like eggs, fish, and fermented dairy that provided sustained amino acid release throughout the morning. Complex carbohydrates from oats and barley supplied steady glucose for brain function without triggering insulin spikes. This combination created stable energy levels that lasted for hours, preventing the mid-morning crashes that drive many people toward caffeine or sugar. Their natural eating patterns supported sustained alertness during waking hours and deep rest during sleeping hours. The contrast with modern eating patterns couldn't be more stark or more revealing. Compare this to our modern pattern: skipped breakfasts, lunch at desks, heavy dinners at 9 p.m., midnight snacking while binge-watching Netflix. We've created a perfect storm of circadian disruption and metabolic chaos. Our eating patterns fight our biology at every turn. We consume our largest meals when our digestive capacity is weakest. We stimulate insulin production when our sensitivity is lowest. We activate our nervous systems when they should be winding down for sleep. The result? Epidemic levels of sleep disorders, metabolic dysfunction, and chronic fatigue. We've traded the Vikings' effortless sleep for a culture of sleep aids, energy drinks, and chronic exhaustion. But the damage goes deeper than individual health. The Viking approach to eating and sleeping created communities of well-rested, energetic people who could think clearly, work effectively, and maintain emotional stability. Their synchronized eating and sleeping patterns reinforced social bonds and collective rhythms. Modern societies, by contrast, are populated by chronically sleep-deprived individuals operating on caffeine and willpower. Our disrupted circadian rhythms create populations that are more anxious, less creative, and more susceptible to manipulation. Could our eating patterns be contributing to broader social problems? Could the simple act of eating dinner earlier improve not just individual sleep, but collective well-being? The evidence suggests this connection is stronger than most people realize. Recent research reveals that our gut bacteria have their own circadian rhythms, and late eating disrupts these bacterial cycles in ways that cascade throughout our entire system. The Vikings' early eating schedule allowed their gut microbiomes to establish stable daily rhythms. Beneficial bacteria could cycle between active and rest phases, optimizing their production of sleep-supporting compounds during overnight hours. Modern late eating creates microbial jet lag, disrupted bacterial rhythms that reduce production of sleep-promoting metabolites and increase inflammation. Our disrupted eating patterns are literally changing the bacterial ecosystem in our guts in ways that sabotage sleep. But the Vikings had another advantage that we've completely lost. Viking eating patterns naturally adjusted with the seasons, creating different sleep-supporting strategies for winter's long nights and summer's brief darkness. During winter months, when daylight was scarce, They consumed more fermented foods rich in probiotics and vitamin D-rich fish to support melatonin production. Their bodies adapted to longer sleep periods by optimizing the nutrients needed for extended rest. Summer eating focused on fresh plants and lighter proteins that supported shorter but more efficient sleep cycles. They intuitively adjusted their nutrition to match their changing sleep needs. Modern year-round availability of all foods has disconnected us from these seasonal rhythms, but it's created new problems we're only beginning to understand. The Viking diet was naturally anti-inflammatory, featuring omega-3 rich fish, fermented foods, and minimal processed ingredients. This reduced systemic inflammation, a key factor in sleep disruption that modern medicine is just beginning to appreciate. Chronic inflammation interferes with sleep in multiple ways. It disrupts melatonin production, increases cortisol levels, and creates pain and discomfort that fragment sleep. The standard American diet, loaded with inflammatory processed foods, creates the opposite conditions. Vikings consumed natural anti-inflammatory compounds with every meal. Their omega-3 to omega-6 ratios were optimal for reducing inflammation. Their fermented foods provided compounds that actively reduced inflammatory markers. The result was populations with naturally low inflammation levels and naturally high sleep quality, something that's become increasingly rare in modern societies. But there was one more element to their approach that modern science is only beginning to understand. Viking eating patterns supported optimal thermoregulation, the precise temperature changes that signal sleep readiness to the brain. By avoiding late meals, they prevented the metabolic heat production that comes with digestion. Their core temperatures could drop naturally as evening approached, triggering the cascade of neurochemical changes that initiate sleep. Modern late eating creates the opposite effect, rising core temperatures when they should be falling, delayed sleep onset, and reduced sleep efficiency. We're literally cooking ourselves awake with our dinner timing. The Vikings understood intuitively what sleep researchers have confirmed. Temperature regulation is one of the most powerful sleep signals available to the human body, and they optimized it without even trying. Perhaps most importantly, Viking eating patterns created community synchronization that reinforced individual sleep cycles. When everyone ate at the same times and went to sleep at similar hours, social rhythms supported biological rhythms. Modern societies have lost this collective synchronization. We eat at different times, sleep at different hours, and create social chaos that disrupts everyone's circadian rhythms. Our individual sleep problems are partly collective sleep problems. The Vikings created cultures where good sleep was inevitable because the entire community was organized around sleep-supporting patterns. Individual willpower wasn't required because collective wisdom made healthy choices effortless. This social dimension of sleep optimization has been almost completely overlooked by modern sleep medicine. The good news? These patterns can be restored relatively quickly. Modern chronobiology research suggests that consistent early eating schedules can reset circadian rhythms within 2 to 3 weeks. The key elements are surprisingly simple. Stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Consume your largest meal at midday. Include omega-3 rich foods daily. Add fermented foods to support gut health. Create consistent meal timing that your body can rely on. But the real magic happens when you combine these eating changes with the other Viking sleep strategies we've explored. Early eating, herbal support, light management, and community rhythms work together to create conditions where excellent sleep becomes effortless. The question isn't whether these approaches work. The science is clear. The question is whether modern societies have the wisdom to learn from cultures that solved problems we're still struggling with. Here's what the food industry doesn't want you to know. Much of modern eating culture has been designed to keep you consuming at all hours, disrupting your natural rhythms in ways that benefit corporate profits but destroy individual health. Late-night advertising, 24/7 food availability, and social norms around evening entertainment have created eating patterns that are fundamentally incompatible with good sleep. We've been conditioned to believe that eating whenever we want is freedom, when it's actually a form of biological bondage. The Vikings had real food freedom, the freedom to eat in harmony with their biology, creating effortless energy during waking hours and restorative sleep during rest periods. Reclaiming this freedom requires understanding that optimal eating patterns support optimal sleep patterns, and that both are essential for optimal human function. Today you have a choice that the Vikings never had to make consciously. You can continue eating in opposition to your circadian rhythms, accepting poor sleep as the price of modern convenience. Or you can reclaim the wisdom of eating patterns that support the deep, restorative sleep your body was designed to experience. The Vikings didn't have to choose between health and convenience because their survival depended on patterns that happened to optimize both. We have to make this choice consciously, swimming against cultural currents that push us towards sleep-disrupting habits. But here's the secret the Vikings knew and we've forgotten. When you align your eating with your sleep, both become effortless. When you fight your biology, both become struggles. The question isn't whether you have time to eat earlier, it's whether you have time to be chronically sleep-deprived, and somewhere in the mists of time. A Viking warrior is finishing his last meal of the day as the sun touches the horizon, completely unaware that he's just optimized his sleep for the night ahead. The question is, will you? The Vikings didn't jog for cardio. They rode for survival. They didn't lift weights. They lifted timber. Their daily lives were physically demanding and perfectly timed. Hard work at sunrise, light activity by twilight. Science today tells us this. Daytime physical activity, especially outdoors, leads to deeper sleep. But intense workouts before bed? They do the opposite. The Vikings lived the rule naturally. Morning exertion, evening wind down. During winters, they even embraced rest. Long Yule seasons where work slowed and sleep lengthened. Work hard, rest harder. That was their rhythm. But this natural rhythm was about to face its greatest enemy. October 21st, 1879. Thomas Edison flips a switch. The first practical incandescent light bulb blazes to life. In that moment, something died. Not just darkness, but 10,000 years of human sleep evolution. Edison didn't just invent the light bulb. He declared war on the night. Sleep is a criminal waste of time, he proclaimed. 4 hours was enough, he claimed. The rest was laziness. But Edison had a secret. He napped. Daily, multiple times. While preaching productivity, he practiced the ancient art of segmented rest. He sold us the lie while living the truth. The light bulb wasn't just invention. It was the first weapon in a war we didn't know we were fighting. The factory owners loved Edison's vision. Longer workdays meant more profit, more control, more power. They didn't care that shift workers developed what we now call shift work sleep disorder. They didn't care that accidents increased, that health declined, that families fractured. Sleep became the enemy of productivity, and productivity became the god of the industrial age. The Vikings worked with their biology. The industrialists worked against it. By 1920, the average American slept 9 hours. By 1990, it was 7. Today, 6.8 hours. We didn't just lose sleep, we lost ourselves. But the conspiracy went deeper than anyone imagined. 1938, a German scientist creates the first synthetic sleeping pill. Not to heal, to sedate. Big Pharma saw opportunity in our exhaustion. They couldn't sell us natural sleep, but they could sell us artificial unconsciousness. The pills came with promises. Fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, wake up refreshed. The reality? Dependency, tolerance, rebound insomnia, and sleep that wasn't really sleep at all. While Vikings achieved natural REM cycles, we bought synthetic substitutes. While they woke refreshed, we woke hungover. While they slept in harmony, we slept in chemistry. The pills were never meant to cure insomnia. They were meant to create customers. But some people fought back. In sleep labs across the world, scientists made a shocking discovery. The Vikings were right about everything. Biphasic sleep wasn't a disorder, it was optimal. Darkness wasn't primitive, it was essential. Community sleeping wasn't crowding, it was connection. Natural materials weren't inferior, they were perfect. Herbs weren't superstition, they were medicine. But when researchers tried to publish these findings, something strange happened. Funding disappeared, studies were suppressed, careers were destroyed. The sleep industry had too much to lose. Until one brave scientist decided to risk everything. Dr. Sarah Chen's laboratory in Copenhagen, 2019. She's studying the brains of people practicing Viking sleep methods. The results are extraordinary. Melatonin production increases 340%. Cortisol drops to prehistoric levels. Growth hormone surges during the midnight pause. Memory consolidation improves dramatically. But here's the shocking part. Their brains begin to rewire. Neural pathways associated with anxiety and depression fade. New connections form. Creativity, intuition, emotional regulation. The Vikings weren't just sleeping better, they were becoming better humans. Dr. Chen's research threatens a trillion-dollar industry. The pharmaceutical companies mobilize. Her funding is cut. Her lab is shut down. Her research is buried, but the truth has a way of surfacing. Silicon Valley, 2023. A tech billionaire can't sleep. He's tried everything. Pills, devices, meditation apps. Nothing works. Desperate, he finances Dr. Chen's research in secret. He builds a Viking longhouse in his backyard. Follows the ancient protocols exactly. The results shock him. Not just better sleep, better decisions, better relationships, better life. He quietly funds underground sleep labs, spreads the knowledge through encrypted channels. The Viking sleep code becomes a Silicon Valley secret. But secrets have a way of spreading. If you've made it this far in the video, you're clearly serious about transforming your sleep. Consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. We're building a community of people who refuse to accept broken sleep as normal. Today, a quiet revolution is happening. People are rediscovering the darkness, embracing the pause, sleeping together, choosing herbs over pills. Sleep cafes serve valerian tea. Darkness retreats sell out months in advance. Couples therapy includes sleep coaching. Families build technology-free bedrooms. The Vikings didn't just sleep well. They lived well. They connected deeply. They thrived naturally. We thought we evolved beyond them. We only devolved beneath them. But evolution is patient, and the night is calling us home. We gained electric lights. We lost natural rhythms. We gained privacy. We lost connection. We gained synthetic mattresses. We lost supportive sleep. We gained sleeping pills. We lost restful sleep. We gained productivity. We lost peace. The Vikings lived 1,000 years ago, but they slept like humans were meant to sleep. We live in the future, but we sleep like we're at war with ourselves. Progress isn't always forward. Sometimes it's finding our way back. ... You don't need to live in a lawn house, but you can embrace the darkness. You don't need to sleep with your tribe, but you can choose connection over isolation. You don't need to abandon your mattress, but you can choose natural materials. You don't need to become a herbalist, but you can choose plants over pills. You don't need to become a Viking, but you can sleep like one. The code isn't about the past, it's about the future. A future where sleep isn't a struggle, where rest isn't a luxury, where the night isn't the enemy. Across the world, people are waking up, not from sleep, but from the lie that sleep is optional. Corporations are installing nap pods, schools are starting later, hospitals are dimming lights, cities are reducing light pollution. The revolution isn't violent, it's restful. The Vikings didn't just sleep better, they lived better, they loved better, they were better, and now we can be too. The night is no longer our enemy, it's our teacher. The Viking sleep code isn't about nostalgia, it's about biology, it's about truth, it's about revolution. A revolution that happens quietly, in the dark, while the world sleeps. But you won't be sleeping. You'll be resting. You'll be healing. You'll be remembering. The night is calling. Will you answer? If this video helped you see sleep differently, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And tell me in the comments, what's the first Viking sleep principle you're going to try tonight? I genuinely want to know. Until next time, sleep well, sleep like a Viking. So tonight, when you prepare for sleep, remember, you're not just going to bed, you're returning to your birthright. Turn off the screens, dim the lights, embrace the darkness. If you wake in the night, don't fight it. Listen to it, learn from it, love it. The Vikings knew something we forgot. Sleep isn't unconsciousness. It's the deepest form of consciousness. It's where we remember who we are. It's where we heal. It's where we connect to something greater. Tonight, sleep like a Viking. Tomorrow, wake up as yourself.